You didn't find this by accident. This message must be meant for you or someone you know. Something different, some may even say dangerous, is happening in America right now. And most people are too emotionally exhausted to fully see it. Politics is no longer just politics. Religion is no longer staying inside churches, mosques, or synagogues. Everything is starting to merge together: faith, fear, identity, power, anger. And this is where things start becoming deeply uncomfortable, because both sides think they're defending freedom while increasingly seeing the other side as a threat to society itself. But here's the part almost nobody wants to say out loud. What happens when people stop using faith to become more compassionate and start using it to justify fear, control, and division? Because history shows something terrifying. Once people believe God is fully on their side, they often stop questioning themselves entirely. So what does God say when religion, politics, fear, and power all begin colliding at once? Because what the Torah, the Gospel, and the Quran reveal about this might challenge everyone watching this video. A religious liberty commission connected to President Donald Trump is pushing a controversial set of proposals involving public schools, healthcare exemptions, church-state issues, and faith-based protections. Supporters say these ideas defend religious freedom in a culture becoming hostile toward traditional beliefs. Critics say some proposals could blur the separation between religion and government or create situations where certain groups feel excluded or harmed. And this is where it gets messy, because both sides genuinely believe they are protecting something important. One side fears faith is disappearing from public life. The other fears religion gaining political power over people who believe differently. And maybe that's why this story feels emotionally explosive online. Because underneath the policy arguments is something much deeper: identity. People are no longer just debating laws. They're debating morality, meaning, truth, and what kind of society America is becoming. But here's what people are missing. Fear exists on both sides. Fear of losing freedom. Fear of losing dignity. Fear of losing cultural influence. And this is where faith steps in. Here's what's interesting. The Hebrew Bible repeatedly warns leaders not to abuse spiritual authority. In Micah 6-8 it says, "What does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God." That last word matters deeply here, humbly, because once people become convinced God is automatically on their political side, humility starts disappearing. And then Proverbs 11:2 says, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom." This may challenge how you see the story. BECAUSE Judaism places enormous importance on justice and conscience, but it also fears religious arrogance. The belief that one group fully owns God while everyone else becomes morally lesser. Now notice this. Jesus consistently resisted political domination through religion. In Matthew 22:21 he says, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's." That line has shaped debates about faith and government for centuries. And then this in Matthew 7:12, "Do to others whatever you would like them to do to you." Simple, but difficult, because this is where things become uncomfortable. Everybody wants freedom for themselves. The harder question is whether people still defend freedom for those they deeply disagree with. Christianity calls people toward conviction, yes, but also humility, compassion, and mercy toward opponents. And that becomes difficult once politics turns into moral warfare. Here's what stands out in the Quran. Faith cannot be meaningful if it is forced. It says, "There shall be no compulsion in religion." That verse changes everything about how belief should function socially. Real faith cannot exist through coercion. And then this, "O humanity, we created you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another, not destroy one another, not hate one another, know one another." But here's what people are missing. Islam, like Judaism and Christianity, warns repeatedly against hypocrisy and pride disguised as righteousness. Sometimes people use religious language not to serve God, but to gain control, status, or influence. So what do all three traditions warn about together? Pride, moral arrogance, turning faith into a weapon. But here's where this gets deeply uncomfortable. Modern politics increasingly rewards outrage more than wisdom. The louder people become, the more attention they receive. The more afraid people become, the easier they are to divide. And religion becomes extremely powerful inside fear because people stop asking, "Am I loving my neighbor?" and start asking, "Whose side is God on?" That shift changes societies fast. This is why stories like this trigger such intense reactions online. Because deep down, people sense the argument is no longer only about policy. It is about identity, morality, fear, and power itself. And maybe the deeper spiritual crisis underneath all of this is realizing how easily human beings can convince themselves they are defending righteousness while slowly losing compassion. So now this turns toward you. Not politicians, not commissions, you. Because every person eventually faces the same difficult question. Does your faith make you more compassionate, or just more certain you are right? This is where things become painfully honest. It is easy to defend freedom when it protects people you agree with. The real test is whether you still believe in dignity and compassion for people who frustrate you, offend you, or see the world completely differently. So ask yourself honestly, if God values humility so strongly across Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, why is modern public life becoming more angry, more tribal, and more cruel? Why do so many people seem spiritually exhausted right now? Because maybe the danger is not religion itself. Maybe the danger is what happens when fear and power start reshaping religion into something unrecognizable. And maybe that is the deeper warning hiding underneath this entire story. Faith should bring people closer to truth, humility, justice, and compassion. But when faith becomes fused with ego, outrage, and domination, people stop seeing each other as human beings made by God. So don't just see politics here. See human nature, see fear, see identity, and ask yourself, what kind of society are we becoming when everyone believes they are righteous, but fewer people are becoming compassionate? If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and head over to our YouTube page for more content like this.